But you know, we truly do believe that it's the quality of our friendships and our relationships that determine the quality of our life. And especially as we're heading into the festive season, we want to give some tips to us as to how we can build healthy relationships. Jess's family, the Beatties side of the family, they like to call the festive season the festy season sometimes. And so, hey, well, I just want to invite the panel to come up and take their seats at the moment. So why don't we give them a big round of applause? And we're all going to take our seats. So, just to introduce the panel, first up we have the amazing Cheryl, who is sitting right beside me at the moment. Cheryl is probably the person in this room that's known me for the longest, since I've been a little tacker, and so since I was about 7. And then next to Cheryl is Jake and Flick. And so these guys are an awesome, strong, key couple in our church who we so love and appreciate. And I think Jake's feeling a little bit nervous because he's usually behind the desk doing production, but so we see him up front. It's nice to see you, Jake.
Nice to see you too, Jake.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I saw you're a wonderful person.
And then we have the one and only Jaden Hall, who currently oversees our youth group, and who currently is in a relationship, actually. Sorry, ladies. So he's currently courting the one and only Ashley Smith. And then we have Michelle Smoker. It's okay, she's given up the fags. We love you, Michelle. Michelle's a very good friend of ours. And then last and definitely not least, everyone knows my amazing wife, good old Jessica. Jessica Williams. Yeah, come on, give the panel a round of applause. So, this is our first Everlife panel. We're just flying by the seat of our pants, right? And so, we've pre-arranged a few questions, but we might throw a few curly ones in there. And so we've got a bit of a varied panel because we have varied relationships in life, and we're just trying to touch the surface of the different kinds of relationships that we have. And so tonight we're going to start off with simple friendships. And so I want to ask a few people in particular, what is the best thing that you've ever done for a friend? Maybe starting with Flick. What's the best thing?
First up, wow, no pressure. It's actually, to be honest, getting harder as I get older to really be thoughtful, and it's tough because life just happens, who knows that. But the thing that came to mind for me was probably when I was about 17, and my lifelong best friend who lives in Sydney. I was born and raised in New South Wales, and I'd been over here for about 3 years, and I got a phone call, and she told me that she had cancer. And so it was a pretty hard time for her, and I decided to go over there and surprise her. And I was there and held her hand when she started chemo, and praise God, she's perfectly fine now. And she's just turned 30, so...
What a friend.
Yeah, with an awesome family. So that was probably the biggest act of friendship that I've done.
Thank you, Flick. And how about you, Jaden? Oh, you've got one?
Put me after that.
Yeah, follow that, Jaden.
I bought a friend some chocolates. That's crazy. No, probably the best thing I've done for a friend was I had a friend that was really struggling, and they just, like, from a broken family, everything going on in their life, just had a breakup, on drugs. They're just in a really bad state, and so I'm just like, I'll pick you up, let's go for a drive. And so we jumped in the car, we just started driving, and we ended up going like 2 hours down south, and the whole time down there, he didn't say a word. Not one word, like trying to start conversations. And anyway, we just got somewhere, we went for a bushwalk, and he began to open up and talk, and the whole way back we just talked about life, about God, about everything. But yeah, now he's actually like in youth ministry, leading, doing the same thing with young people. So
that is so cool, awesome. A lot of travel here. And how about Jess, my amazing wife?
Very similar to Flick, really. I'm less of a good friend nowadays than I was back then. But yeah, I often went to Kalgoorlie to support one of my good friends through a difficult time. She was supporting a family member who was going through some severe depression, drug use, and she had a family member staying with her, so I went and spent some time there to support her and help her.
So moral of the story, if you want to be a good friend, get a car. Or save a freaking flyer point, hey?
I took the train.
Yeah, come the train.
It was like 8 hours,
Trains.
9 hours. Insane.
Wow.
That is a very good friend.
Yeah, how much time does yours take? Hey, well, so they're not all angels, right? So I'm sure equally you guys have had big friendship fails. So what's the worst thing you've ever done to a friend, Flick?
This is embarrassing. I don't know. But when I was going to uni, I used to carpool with a friend, and then we used to drive to the station together, take turns. And this one day we were running really late. My fault. The hair wasn't working. And anyways, we were rushing, and who's been to Warwick train station? The flight of stairs. Anyways, she missed the top step and went all the way to the bottom. And there I was at the top, in shock, just laughing at her. And it was another person that had to help her up and actually say, "Are you okay?" And then I slowly made my way down and recovered. But yeah, it was not my finest friendship hour, that's for sure.
Did the friendship recover after that?
It did, yeah, we're all good now. She moved, but that's not on me.
As far away.
She moved to better and bigger things, but yeah.
Okay, fail. Any fails, Jaden?
Yeah, so I was like, I have this go-to show-off dish when I'm cooking for people, and it's like homemade chicken Kiev. So, you know, buy the chicken breast, like just sort of make it myself, get my own like, you know, bacon and filling and stuff like that. Anyway, I was showing off one day, and I made the chicken Kiev, we all ate it, and there was this one friend who didn't mention it at the time, but she started eating it, it was raw, it wasn't cooked on the inside. But she was too polite to say anything, so she's just there eating the whole thing. And you know, the night goes on, she starts to feel sick, and the truth comes out, and I felt terrible.
She's still with us?
Yeah, she's still right. She doesn't go to my old church anymore, so I don't know.
I was about to say, where's the invite? But after that, no thanks.
That's so good. All right, well, we would like some advice around friendships. How to build a healthy, or what is the key to building a great friendship? And so I might just surprise Michelle with a quick question. What do you think is a key to building a great friendship? This is off the cuff.
That is very off the cuff. I think for me it's all about trust, and so it's trusting the person, because as soon as you break that trust, that kind of the friendships, it's not gone, but the level of friendship is never back there again. So I think the ultimate is trusting and being authentic in your relationship as well.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. Flick, have you got some any advice around building friendships?
I do. Building friendships, so probably my number one would be, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I mean, this goes for all relationships, I reckon, but how do you make a really good friend is like just go out of your way for them. Like I said before, it is getting harder because life gets in the way sometimes, but just remembering to be thoughtful and remembering to put yourself out there, because I mean that's a big part of relationships for sure.
So good. Does anyone else have any tips in building a great friendship?
Honestly, I was just going to say, make time for people, make space, which goes hand in hand with going out of your way for somebody. But if you don't have the time for somebody, they're not as likely going to be able to build and sustain that friendship. Because you could start a friendship and get all like a house on fire, but if you're not, being there around for them, then it's just going to crumble down, you know.
Time can be, and in this fast-paced world, time at a premium. What, I guess, does someone have any advice or points around building friendships in those seasons where your time is a little bit depleted? You're a mum, you're interstate, etc.
Yeah, I do. I think I've made a lot of great friends. I've got friends that I've been friends with for 20 years or more, and many of them are just like me. They've got several children, they work full time, and many of them don't even live in Perth. We've continued a friendship over time when we've moved away, and I think for us, it sometimes doesn't look like lots of time together in these seasons. It's being honest about what you can give a friendship. I have one of my longest term friends said to me when she was moving to London to take on an amazing job opportunity, Jess, I don't even think I'm going to have time to email. Can we WhatsApp each other every few months? And that's what we do to see our friendship through this season in our lives where we're super busy. And same with other friendships, you know, we work it out together and often we assure each other. I think I've never told friends that I love them more than I do now, because when we can't give our time, we give our words of love and affection and reassurance. And for me, that's seen us through you know, because when trust is built, it takes time to build trust. And so you don't want to let that friendship go easily just because you're in seasons. And, you know, I just want to champion my friends if they're starting businesses or taking, you know, super jobs in London. And, you know, I want to champion them, but keep their friendship through that.
And I noticed about Jess is very good at making friends with all kinds of different people. I think that, you know, you've got pretty amazing friendships with varied kinds of people. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I think I love developing friendships with people that are very different to me, and sometimes that means that they don't respond the way I think they should, or, you know, and so I think I really believe that if you want to encounter or experience the beauty of different people in your life, you need to overlook what you might see as an imperfection. One of the greatest people I know, I think when we first hung out, the first 3 times, I kid you not, she worked through our catch up, like I was basically looking after her kids while she, you know, but I'm really glad I didn't kind of let that go, because she's one of the most generous, most wonderful people that I know, and we went on to build, you know, I finally got her attention somewhere in there, and we went on to build a wonderful friendship that we still have to this day.
Yeah, so good. Have you got any tips for the up and coming generation, Jaden?
Yeah, I think when you, like Jess said, like when you can't give quantity, give quality, as well as that. Like, I think we're meant to be Christ to people, right? And so I think we should view our friendships, our friends, like through the eyes of Christ. And you see, Jesus had a circle of 12 people and just sowed into them for years and years. And it was like it was all just about giving out. And I think, like, especially the young people, see your friendships from the point of view of what can I do for you. Instead of, like, you know, what can you sort of do for me. And so just building, I think that's how you build. There's sort of like a backwards way to get a good lasting friendship that will be there for you in the rough times, is to say, you know, what can I give out, what can I sow into you, time, money, effort, energy.
So good. And can I ask Cheryl as well for some tips around friendships? We'll go and grab this one. Thank you.
You probably noticed phone, piece of paper. Put down your phones, guys. Talk to each other. You know? Our generation didn't have phones, you know, and I think the younger generations do everything by text or phone or whatever, you know, and I think things can be misunderstood through a text very easily. And I say, put down your phones, you know, you can read all into a text. Doesn't have it, you know. My daughter's always saying, use emojis, Mum, I don't know what you're thinking. And it's true, you know, words can be misunderstood, so put your phones down.
Great tip. We've even got a phone as part of our audience over here, so please forgive us. So good. Thank you, Cheryl, that's really good. And then as friendships develop, they build a very good foundation for people who are interested in progressing into the next stage, into the romantic areas. So going back to some epic fails, does anyone have any romantic sort of fail stories?
I'll kick us off.
Okay. Unplanned.
It's a very small one, but I think it was our first date. First date. Thought I'd be the best of gentlemen, and so I walk around to the passenger door side, open the door for her. Gentlemen, it's the thing to do, okay? So I open this door, and I've got heavy car doors, like so heavy, and as my now lovely wife was stepping into the car, the door swung back and hit her in the head. She forgave me. We're still together, so. So that was trying to do the right thing, and it
You recovered okay?
Yeah, recovered okay.
Yeah, well done, Jack. That's what matters. Oh, Cheryl has one.
I got married in November. I think it was the 3rd. Anyway, my husband and I were both pretty bad at remembering our anniversary. And one year, we were coming home from Busselton after January holidays, and we both burst out laughing. We actually forgot our wedding anniversary. We both completely forgot that, been and gone, and yeah, we both had a good laugh.
A laugh can fix anything. Very, very good.
I've got another first date one, and my first date with Ash, and we were at Carousel, and I had a skateboard. Like, we were just parking up. I had a skateboard in the back of my car, so I'm like, this would be a good chance to show off a little bit. Everything comes back to me showing off. I know that's an issue there. So I grabbed the skateboard out, and I'm like, I'm going to do an ollie over this speed hump. And so I'm getting up speed and doing ollie, and I just clear it over. Like, I'm not very good. It's a cruiser. It's not an OG skateboard. And so I just make it over. I'm like, all right, that's it. Go a bit harder. Go faster on the next one. And so I build up speed again. And as I do it, the board just like stops, and I end up on my bum. And Ash, I didn't think Ash could see me because I was on the other side of the car park. She saw me. I came back around. She picked up the skateboard and did better tricks than I did. So. But we're still together. That was the moment.
And Jess, you have one that's worth sharing, I think. You can't get away with not sharing this one.
Mine's worse than any of them. I had this really great friend years ago, and I don't know, we just thought we should try dating because surely it would work if we were good friends. It was a total disaster. So, I don't know, my epic fail was trying to make something that we knew wasn't be something. Yeah.
Trying to add the romance when there just was none there. That's good. So getting to a little bit serious now, everyone is leaning into this, or many people are leaning into this. How do you go about looking for your marriage partner? Can we get some advice from someone who's already married? Fleek, it must have worked, so for you, can you give us some tips?
Oh dear. It wasn't according to me. It didn't work because of me. It was all Jake. He knew what he wanted. But I remember my brother, he was about 17 at the time, and I'm 5 years older than him. And got the experience of the world and stuff. So he was feeling pretty upset that he'd never had a girlfriend, never had anyone interested in him. Sorry, Jimmy, if you're watching. I remember telling him, after a pretty rough couple of years myself on the dating scene, and I said, Jim, you know what, you just need to kind of do you. Who said that you do you, boo? Like, just, you do you. But I just think that when you're doing stuff that you love and you figure out who you are, it kind of attracts the right people. And sure enough, he did. He went to Costa Rica and saved leatherback turtles. He always goes the next level. but when he was doing that, and he just found out who he was, and just didn't focus on it, didn't freak out about all of that stuff, and just focused on himself, he started to build confidence, and you just saw a shift. And there was a couple of podcasts that he listened to as well and stuff like that, but yeah, he fell in love with God, fell in love with himself, started to get that groove going, and I think, and then met his now wife on his 21st birthday. So yeah, and he at the same time he had a bunch of fun and met amazing people and had amazing life experiences, and I know that is a huge part of finding someone.
So good. Leatherback turtles. Thank you for the tip. Jess, have you got some advice for us?
Oh, I think, I really agree with that. I remember, I think I was married in my late 20s. And so I remember going to many weddings, many parties, single, because when you're single, you don't usually get invited with a +1, you just get invited, and we're like, yes, they're single, I can save some money, And so I just really encourage you guys, I know how hard it is to do that, but I just encourage you to do it anyway. Be confident, keep social, keep going, be interested, just stay in the game, because I think when you allow yourself to continue going out and socialising, all of that. You keep your world bigger, and you need a big world if you're going to meet someone.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's great advice. And Jaden, you've recently managed to find someone. You're not married yet.
I'm not married.
I know you're going well. You're on track, so we can make the most of the current situation.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah. Got the countdown on.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, I think, yeah, on a fundamental level, having the same heart. Proverbs says, everything flows from your heart. And so if you think of your life and you're going to spend your life with someone, you better make sure that your heart matches up with them. And I think for Christians, for people who believe in God, I think probably one of the best ways is to just go all out for God and get like 100% devoted, because that's how you attract people with that same heart.
Right.
So if your heart is to devoted to God and committed to God, then show that with your actions, show that with what you do, and at the right time, I believe someone will come along and get beside you.
So good. Thank you, Jaden. Also, we're heading on to the next level, which is marriage now. I've got a very important question, I think, to ask Flick in the centre. As an apparent lover of fashion, do you think it's okay to ignore fashion once you're married?
Sometimes. I love my PJs, I'm not gonna lie. And I love a comfy hoodie and stuff like that. So, but no, the underlying thing is probably not. And it's not about, like looks and everything, but going back to the whole thing of just self-confidence and having that self-confidence when you're looking and feeling your best, and you put a little bit of effort in and put some makeup on, because I know I was going to be on the panel today. But no, when you're making a bit of an effort, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I'm lucky enough. But I think it's important because it reflects your self-worth.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And so yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No.
Yeah, this is
Make
great.
an effort, but also don't go over the top. That would be my last thing.
Awesome. That's a very, very good point. Thanks, Flick. Jess, what do you think about that point?
Well, I think I've noticed that what is fashionable and what, say, Shaphan likes are two completely different things.
Yeah, I've got awesome fashion sense.
I could be like a picture of fashion, and he'll be like he's literally taken clothes that I like and hidden them so that I can't wear them.
And that wasn't in the plan.
Actually, I think there's times in life, so that's just a joke. I mean, so I think it's important. I agree with what Flick said, but also I think there's seasons in life where it's hard because you're having babies, or you might be down to one income, and so you actually can't prioritise fashion. And so I think it's always about doing the best you can to present yourself in a way that is creative and gives expression to who you are, with whatever you've got. And so for me, for many years, that has looked like second-hand clothes and, making the best with what other people have given me. And that was a really fun time, actually. I really enjoyed that. But, yeah, so for me, yes and no, really.
Well, you've done an amazing job, my love. I think Jess is like wine. She gets hotter the further time goes on. So.
Watch out.
It's true. So, Michelle, I guess over in your journey, has the idea of an ideal marriage partner changed over time?
Yes, it has changed for me. I guess for one thing though, that it's enlightened the fact of the things I won't compromise on in finding a relationship, and that is a man of faith. So I'm not going to compromise on that. But as I've grown up and as I've matured, I'd like to say I've matured. Some people might not agree with that. But as I've matured, what I see in someone and how they will compliment me is different, because I've changed, over the last decade as well. So it has changed.
Thank you. Jaden, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think I don't know, as a Christian teenager, sort of growing up, you have this image that one day you'll meet the one. And as much as I got told that there's no the one, I still sort of subconsciously believed it and held on to that hope. But I think, again, just someone who's on the same path as you. I love what you said last week, that equally yoked. I think at the fundamental level, you're going to be heading the same way. And so, it shifted from like, everything's perfect and they're going to fix everything in my life and everything that I'm weak in, they'll be strong in. I think, if you can have two whole people come together and, holding Christ and heading the same direction, I think you're on track to having a good marriage. So I hear.
That's great. Yeah, very good. So he is. We'll say, watch this space. Does anyone else have any tips on your ideal marriage partner? Has it changed over time?
Throw out the list.
Throw out the list?
Throw out the list. Have the main things, but did you want to add to that?
I was just going to say, I am not the list.
No. Let me expound on that.
That's an interesting point.
No. I think I was looking for so long for a certain type of someone, a certain type of something that I thought, had to be a worship leader, had to, have the really cool hair and I mean, you're out of jail, babe. I'm gonna dig myself out of this. But no, at the end of the day, I was lucky enough to find someone who knew what he wanted. And I think the clincher for me was that I just kind of surrendered that part of my life to God. And also, he's 4 years younger than me, guys. We met when he was 20.
Whoa!
I know. Oh, 3 years, 3.5 years. So I was like, oh, he's so immature, like I'm only 23. But I think, throwing aside that and just believing God that, hey, this guy's been brought along maybe for a reason, and I got to know him. And when you get to know someone, it kind of supersedes everything else that you had in your mind.
So the real person in front of you is better than the list
Exactly.
in your pocket.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
totally. Yeah.
I've heard that some people are pro lists though. Has anyone got a list? Put up your hand nice and high. Where you're like, whoa, no, hands are going up. Okay, sorry, we don't want to.
That's okay. I think I saw Ash's hand up at the back.
You want to have a look at her list?
I think I might have to tick some boxes.
Matches.
Alright, bring it up. How about you, Jess? Has your ideal partner changed over time? It must have.
Similar to Flick, I think when I was younger it was always about, the package and how I guess they made me feel like, oh, they're cute and they've got a good job and they drive the right car and they're, engaged in church or whatever. But then, I've had some of those sorts of relationships go terribly wrong, and I learned to think less about how they made me feel, but more about getting to actually know the person. And my mum said to me one day after I'd come home from my first date with Shaphan and he'd run out of fuel and had no money, and so I had to buy fuel for his car.
That was the biggest epic fail.
I went home and I said to my mum, I don't think I want to do this. Like, this is not what I'm looking for. And my mum said to me very wisely, she's like, yeah, but Jess, those things can be improved. Think about, the character and his heart and who he is. And so, thanks to my mum, you got a second date.
Forever grateful.
And she was so right about character and heart of a person.
Oh, just take a moment there. Alright, so we want tips to an awesome marriage. Has anyone got tips to an awesome marriage? Flick has handed off the microphone.
Oh yeah, that's kind of cute. Well, I'll say communication first, but I will mention what Flick just mentioned. And we're still learning. We're only 4 years married, but communication is the biggest thing, and that's in any relationship. You've got to learn how your partner communicates best. I know that if Flick tells me 7-ish, that means any time from 5 to 9. If I say 7-ish, that means any time from 6:55 to 7:05. That's my that's it. That's my little thing about communication. But we have a little rule. I don't know when we made it up. We always said that we would kiss before going to bed, and it's turned into our 3 kiss rule. So we always kiss 3 times before going to bed. That just really, it just helps put things in perspective across the day, especially if you had a bad day or if you've had a fight and things like that. It's just about not letting your anger stay in your marriage or any hurt or whatever.
You can smash out one kiss, but three.
I know.
Your heart's gonna be
Hey,
hurt.
sometimes, like really quick.
What does an angry kiss look like?
Well, I am actually answering this question from a failed marriage. So you could say, what has she got to offer? But failure is actually where often you learn. Just because you failed in something doesn't mean you haven't learned. And I think for me, what I've learned in failure is communication definitely, but don't let communications and don't communicate when you're emotional, with emotions. So when you're emotional and you communicate, it goes from this is the issue to this is the issue, and you get off track and it, So don't make sure you get rid of the emotion.
It's powerful. Thanks so much. Any other tips for an awesome marriage? Jess? Because our marriage is so awesome.
I think in addition to communication, which is so important, for me, I think it's about having I had 3 points, but I'll just give one of them. Having a shared goal and making sure that both partners get a looking into what that looks like. And so it's sitting down and understanding what the desires and goals of your heart is and what your partner's heart is and how that works together. And then both doing the effort required to see that happen. Because then you both get to share in the fruitfulness of success, that you shoulder, both of you, the work involved in getting there. And I think people disengage, or partners can disengage if they're doing all the work and the other one's getting all the joy, or vice versa, or however that looks. And so I think it's just really important to just always be mindful of the giving and receiving part of a partnership in your life goals, also in intimacy, and working that out and growing in that area, giving and receiving and thinking about each other. And the same in terms of your friendship, sometimes we treat our spouses the way we would never treat our friends. And so it's always thinking to honour our spouse and to get into that giving and receiving as you grow your friendship.
That's true.
Mine just goes off the back of that and about what we were talking about before, is being thoughtful. And in that, when we did our premarital counselling and stuff, we were told about this thing called love languages. And I am words of affirmation. So tell me I'm doing a good job and all of that. And Jake learned that really quickly, and that meant a lot to me. And he used to, he still does, but he used to leave me little notes all the time. And Jake's is quality time and physical touch. And so you just learn how people feel, give and receive, like you just said, love. And don't forget that, because it's really important. So the way that you may feel love is maybe not the way your spouse or partner feel loved. And just keep that in the forefront of your mind. That's really important. But the 5 love languages, which is really cool.
So good. Thanks, Flip. Any other tips? No, the married people have given the advice, but I just do want to say what Jess said about really cheering one another on. I remember before I was married, I was at a conference and there was a guest speaker at the front, this great conference, and at the end of his message, he was like, I believe God's going to give you a key to success in your ministry. It was like a pastor's conference, and I'm like, yes, God, give me the key. And I'm waiting there, and I felt God say, I think I was engaged at this time, and I felt the Holy Spirit whisper to me, the key to your success in ministry is to love your wife. And I'm like, no, but the key, what's the key to my success in ministry? And the Holy Spirit's like, love your wife.
Amen.
Okay. And I can say that along the lines with what Jess is saying, as I have imperfectly, but as we've really had a heart to cheer each other on in each other's lanes, and to try and find out how that can combine together in a shared vision. For example, Jess is awesome in her work. And so for me, there could have been a temptation in history to think, well, if I'm in ministry, then Jess has got to be in ministry as well, because that's what you do, the pastor and the pastor's wife. But for me, I found that as I've really cheered Jess on and given her a lot of freedom in our relationship, not only with work, but also the way that Jess expresses herself, then I found that because Jess has enjoyed that freedom and she's more wholeheartedly able to freely give her love back to me, but also to cheer me on as well in my journey. And so together, it's not Jess's journey is separate to mine, but I've found that as I've cheered her on in hers, she's cheered mine on me on in mine, and together we've really been able to find out how it's not two separate visions, but how they mysteriously but so beautifully come together to fulfill one vision. Isn't that right, Jess? So, also just a quick question. Now we'll go into the next phase actually. Life in the fast lane, single and satisfied. Life in the fast lane, single and satisfied is the hook thought. So there are a few people in this panel that have experienced the single life, or all of us have to one degree or another. But I just wanted some tips from a few people about what are some tips in how to live a full and abundant life when things haven't quite gone to plan. Flick's just throwing you under the bus.
I know. Yes, when things don't quite go to plan. I was supposed to grow old with my husband, and it didn't happen. So I think I had to grieve, probably still am a bit, grieving that was my plan. We were growing old together. We've now got adult children, and this is the time of life when we're supposed to be, thinking about retirement and doing stuff like that together. Grieving that was one of them, but I think just trusting that God's got me anyway. God's got a plan and a purpose for my life anyway, and we had, as a couple, we had prophecies and things of, what our life was going to be like, and it was like I had to say, Lord, okay, what happens to them? And I have to go, well, God's got it. God knows, He's got this, it was no surprise to Him, it was a surprise to me, not to Him. So it's like God's got this, and you just got to trust Him in it. Go, no matter what, God's got it.
Can I ask just, thanks for being so vulnerable with us. Can you give us some insight into how although you haven't reached the destination, but just some tips on how you've gone through the journey, because it not only relates to us in terms of disappointment in terms of a marriage, but all of us to one degree or another have had disappointments in our lives. We think that God has said something, or we're holding on to something that we so believed was coming our way, but then opposite to what we thought, it hasn't turned out. So I guess I'm also asking for some tips in how do we deal with or walk through life in that place of being disappointed, but live feeling fulfilled as well.
For me, I just went, Lord, it's you and I, that you're all I've got left. It's you and me. You're now my husband, you're now my provider, you're now everything to me. So I just have to trust you. There is no other choice. Yes, there is other choices, but for me it's like there is no other choice but for me to say, Lord, it is you and I. And part of that was, I kept a journal, and every day I'd pray and I'd ask God. And God chastised me. He told me what I did wrong. He said, some of the verses out of the Old Testament was like, speaking about Israel, but I felt God was telling that to me. This is what you've done wrong, but if you are faithful to me, I will restore. So those verses I got all the time, knowing that God was there, He was going to restore, and He had a plan. And I had to own my mistakes, own what I'd done wrong, and go, I can't just say, oh, it was all His fault, and, do that. I have to go, where did I go wrong? What did I do? I have to own this, and I have to go, can't do that again. I've got to own what I've done wrong, and own my part of that situation and what I caused, and go, Lord, you can redeem me from that.
That's amazing. It's a really, really empowering thing that you're sharing there, where Cheryl is saying that she's not a victim to what's happened, but there's great humility in going, this is where I did the wrong things. And I guess that can come to our situations. There's probably always a mix of two parties involved in any disappointments that we might have in life, and it's a very empowering thing to consider, okay, how have I contributed to this situation? But then at the same time, you're really speaking hope into us.
It didn't always come easy, and I had a very good friend who walked me through it, and we literally walked the bridges,
Yeah.
And at the beginning I'd be angry or whatever, by the end of it we'd be laughing, but she would tell me in the middle of it, no, you're wrong. I'd be saying something and she'd go, no, you're wrong there, and I had to hear that. I had to go, yeah, you're right, okay, I was wrong in that. And I had to hear those things and, walk through that and realise that God loved him, and he loved me.
Wow.
He had a plan for him and he had a plan for me. And so somewhere in that, because I didn't always behave well through it, I had to forgive him, knowing he's not a bad person and God has a plan for him and his life, and learn to bless him as well. And that came hard. I would drive to work and I'd be praying, God bless him, God I forgive him for this, and God bless. And I heard God say to me one time, what if I do? I was like, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Okay, here I'm doing the good Christian thing, I bless him, God says, what if I do? And then I had to come to terms with that, to go, okay, what if God does bless him? What if he has this amazing business and becomes rich and blah, blah, gets another partner, whatever, And you got to go, yeah, I'm okay with that. And I had to get to the point where I go, you know what? Yeah, I'm okay with that, because I know he is a good person. And look, I know that if God made him rich, he would look after me. I know that because I know he has a heart that is good in that respect. He is a very generous person. So, yeah, I had to get to that point where I go, yeah, if God, you choose to bless him, then that is your choice. You choose to bless him.
Wow. Can we just give a big round of applause? Such an empowering message. Very real, vulnerable and raw. Thank you. But such an empowering message where we are not victim to the past, we're not victim to other people's decisions, but we are empowered to authentically forgive. And I just see such a bright future for you, Cheryl, as you've not been defined by the past or by past failure, but your hope is in a God who redeems and a God who turns all things together for the good of those that love him and according to his purpose. So we're just so grateful for you to share the journey with us tonight, Cheryl. Michelle as well, can you please give us just a few tips yourself? I know that you currently aren't with anyone as well, and so we'd love just to hear some of your thoughts as well when things haven't quite gone to plan.
I found this one quite hard because I'm still in this journey, and I think for me the three tips I can do is, and this is something that I'm still learning as well and I'm still developing, but I know that God's promises, he's going to give me the desires of my heart, and I continue to hold on to that and I continue to believe that, and the catch is it's in God's timing, not in my timing. Right. And in doing that, don't give yourself deadlines for when you're going to meet someone. I did that and I was bitterly disappointed, and I stopped at 30. At 30 I went, I'm over this, I'm not doing deadlines anymore. It's going to happen when the time's right, for God, for me, for the person, like the man that's out there. And so don't give yourself deadlines. Like, if anyone's younger, don't do it. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And knowing that your worth's from God, not anyone else, that for me has been the hard one. And through my journey, and I'm still on that journey, but knowing that my worth's not from my boyfriend, partner, husband, or anyone else, but my worth's from God. And I think until I get that, it's going to be time. So, but knowing that God's the only one that's going to be, approved as well.
In that journey, have you been tempted to, rush the process or compromise in the meantime?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have, and that's hard. And I think for me, it's especially when you desire and you such strongly want to be with someone, and it's just not coming back. And I'm like, God, what are you doing? Like, seriously, I've been faithful, I've been praying, I've been putting myself out there, what's wrong? And I think you start to look at yourself, and then you start to look at the compromising in that. And I think it's harder for me. I found it harder when I go to people's weddings, and I go to engagement parties, or I go to baby showers, and then I'm like, whoa, and I find that's the hard part when I feel tempted. But in all of it, if you feel tempted, don't watch a romantic movie. Seriously. Go watch a comedy. Or watch sport, or action movie. Something like that.
Michelle is a very die-hard Eagles fan. And yeah, if you could marry them, you probably would marry the Eagles team. Has anyone else been tempted to compromise or rush the process?
Yeah, I have. Well, yes and no is my answer to that, because I think I've been single until 8 months ago, my whole life, and so.
He's 13.
I'm 13. 21. Well, just above 13, and yeah, I think I was in ministry then, but there was always attempting. Everyone in my ministry team was in a relationship, and so that was just really hard. And there was a lot of struggles with that, but I think I was accidentally surrounded myself with people that wouldn't let me compromise, and so as much as I wanted to as much as I might want to in a moment, just compromise and go find someone and just settle for less. I think I just couldn't have. There are people around me that would have kept me accountable, good friends, and a lot of people that I would just be super vulnerable and open to. And yeah, so that I think that temptation is always there. But yeah, luckily for me, I had those people. And so I think those people in your single years, are the people you should be, really sowing into. Yeah.
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I think I stuffed up in this area in a big way, but I'm not going to tell you about that now. Feel free to ask. But I think for me, I spent a few years where I had elevated the picture of being married with a house and kids above. I had elevated it too high, and so that when you put it up too high, put it up on this pedestal, you can make big mistakes. And I nearly did really. And so sometimes you can be in relationships and overlooking major warning signs and overlooking your own happiness, overlooking the health of the relationship, so that you can get this thing that you put up on a pedestal of the wife, husband, home, kids. We get ourselves into huge debt, we get ourselves into wrong relationships, all of this stuff because we're trying to achieve this picture. And so yeah, I would encourage you to take it off the pedestal, and work it out what God has got for you, and see the blessing in what He has put in your own life. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think you need to enjoy being single.
Very good.
Just enjoy it. Just let it flow and enjoy actually your singleness. You don't have to share a bed. It's good.
I have a great single friend in Melbourne who I go into her home and her walls are lined with her travel pictures, and I'm like, oh, I want your life.
And I'm like, I need to be in it.
She's like, Jess, I want yours. And I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, Jess and I bought a king-size bed, so we have both options. So, marriage tip, king-size bed is awesome. so good. All right, with that, can we give the panel a big round of applause as they take their seats? Awesome. So good. Thank you, guys. Just some tips for how to love your life, and it was just a bit of a taste test. We could have just kept on going. It was so good. And we're just going to invite the band to come up as well at the end, which would be very, very cool. Some great tips. Thank you for sharing so openly and authentically and honestly. And also thank you for people who've been watching online as well. I'm sure you've got some tips from that. Thank you, guys. I just invite everyone to stand up together as well as we come to the end of our service tonight.